we're excited to have you join our training How to Use Zoom to host a PD event. For those who don't know me yet, I'm Liz Kelleher. I'm the program director at SERESC, and I will be the facilitator / moderator for our event. We only have an hour, so I'll go rather briskly through some preliminary information. But first, I want to, oops, I don't know why I can't. There we go. I want to warmly welcome our trainers today, all of whom are your SERESC colleagues, and you should know they eagerly volunteered for this event, and we're very grateful to them for sharing their expertise and their time. So they are Kathy Hazelton, the Across New Hampshire project assistant, and she's waving her hand. Abigail Blodgett, Kathy's colleague at Across. Abigail is a social emotional learning coordinator at Across, and Dr. Nate Jones, who so many of us know, who's the lead of our SERESC school psychology team. So thanks again to them for being here today and offering us their expertise. Before we allow you to introduce yourselves, we're just going to briefly touch on the learning objectives. Since we're all in the education space, I think we know the value of having learning objectives for any training or professional development event, because learning objectives tell the participants what they'll be able to know and do after the event that they didn't know and weren't able to do before the event. So for this event, in a nutshell, it's to be proficient, at least at a basic level, in using Zoom as a video conferencing platform. And what does that mean? That means that we'll tell you about the differences between free and paid Zoom accounts, the benefits and limitations. We'll demonstrate some of the different Zoom functions, such as the chat room, the raise hand function, breakout rooms, and you'll have a chance perhaps to use them yourselves. We'll talk about the different interface when using different types of devices to access Zoom. So if you're a participant, it's a little bit different if you're using an iPad as opposed to a laptop or a mobile phone. And then just to get a little fancy, we'll talk about some of the aesthetics and the lighting and the room presentation so that you can maximize the Zoom experience for your participants, and then they will have a more effective professional development learning opportunity. Does anybody have any questions about those learning objectives? Okay. Good. So now we'd ask you to introduce yourselves. We're going to use a popcorn method of introduction, where each of you will give your name and your role at SERESC or your affiliation with SERESC. And then please call on one of the other participants who have not introduced themselves yet. So I am going to ask Judy to start us off. Hope you don't mind, Judy.
No. So I'm Judy McCamey, and I am, I oversee speech and OT at SERESC and a grant. I'm very excited to be here. And I would like to say hi to Howard, and you are next.
Hi, Judy. Hi, everybody. I'm Howard Muscott. I am the director of the New Hampshire Center for Effective Behavioral Interventions and Supports. I was hoping to be retired this year, but the COVID has changed my retirement plans. I could not leave my schools during this time. So hopefully the COVID and me will be gone next year, not in the same way. And so I will turn it back over to Nate.
Yeah, so I'm Nate Jones. I am the lead for the school psychology team, and I've, like a bunch of people, been at SERESC for a long time and done a bunch of these different presentations. So I'm pretty excited to get to go through this kind of material, because I do think that with all the amazing folks we have at SERESC and on with us today, that getting PD as a strong, or maintaining PD as a real strength for SERESC is so important. So I'm going to pitch it to Stacy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy Orr. I am new to SERESC as a special education consultant and evaluator. I don't know a lot of folks, but I can see someone named Sandy. So I will hand it off to Sandy.
And I actually have somebody with me. Hi, I'm Sandy Hogan. I'm a child care consultant and I social practice-based coach. Been working with SERESC for 20 years. And this is my granddaughter, Canyon. Hello. Hi. And she's homeschooling, and today is one of our homeschool days. So she's hanging out with me. So hi.
Hello.
Hi, Canyon.
Sandy, who would you like to choose to introduce themselves?
I would like to choose one of my colleagues, Amy Upton.
Hello. I have been a part of SERESC for, I think it's been about, I'm going to say, oh, well, over 15 years. And working with PTAN as a consultant. I'm been on a little bit of a break right now. And I'm also a trainer for across New Hampshire. And I'm going to toss it to Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Taylor. I'm a teacher of deaf and hard of hearing students, and I work with Kathy Scudland and a number of other people in that hearing and vision program. Christina?
Hi, I'm Christina Chadwick, and I'm also a teacher of students who are deaf and hard of hearing. I've been with SERESC since we merged from here in New Hampshire, and I'm going to have to check the participant list. How about, who have we not done yet? Jennifer.
Yes, hello, I'm Jennifer Nangle. I think I've been about 10 years with SERESC, coming on that anyway, and I am a teacher of students with visual impairments and a dual certified orientation mobility specialist. Marcia, I think you're in here.
Hi, I'm Marcia Emerson. I'm a teacher of blind and visually impaired. I've been working for SERESC for 36 years, and I will choose
Jennifer.
Kirsten.
Oh, yep.
Hi, I'm Kirsten McGee, school psychologist and BCBA. I've been with SERESC for about 5 years now, and I'll pass it to Judy.
I think Judy already introduced herself.
Did she? Oh, I'm sorry. Sandra?
Jennifer hasn't gone yet, and Sandra.
Sandra.
Hi, I'm Sandy. Not quite sure why things are not coming up. So I've been here at SERESC. This is my second year. I'm a school psychologist, contracted to Raymond. I was retired and missed the kids and the work. So I came back, and I've been working part-time for the last 7 years. This is my second year at SERESC.
And Sandy, who would you like to have introduce themselves?
Well, you know what? It looks to me like everybody's spoken. Have you gone, Elizabeth? Have you talked about, I think you talked about yourself first.
I did. How
I think Jennifer hasn't gone yet.
You did.
Oh, I went.
Oh,
did.
You're the
How
only
about-
one I missed on my list.
How about Abigail and Kathy quickly introduce yourself? That would be great.
I'm Abigail Blodgett. I'm the Social and Emotional Learning Project Coordinator at Across New Hampshire. I've been with Across for a short time, a little over a year in a consultant role. And then this year, 2020, I was hired in the current role that I'm in. And I'm, of course, calling on Kathy next.
I am Kathy Hazelton. I'm the project assistant at Across New Hampshire. I've been there about 5 years. And I also do some different things here and there in SERESC rather. I'm a teacher, trainer, consultant, and look forward to getting to know some more of the folks at SERESC for this training, and hopefully part 2, we'll see some folks too.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks, everyone. Now we're just going to briefly touch upon norms before I hand it over to our presenters to dive into our content. I'm sure you're all familiar with basic norms for either Zoom or other types of video conferencing meeting. They're basically just etiquette, because we're on the internet, and they allow the meeting to be more effective when you have a number of people, as we do today, it's really a good thing to have norms. Whereas when you have just 2 or 3 people, it's not as essential. So for our purposes today, we muted your microphones at the start of the meeting to minimize distraction. And we ask that if you are listening and not speaking, and especially if you have background distraction in the room, that you mute your microphone so that others, the presentation isn't interfered with. We also ask that instead of spontaneously offering a question or a comment, that you either post something in the chat box, which I'll be moderating, or you use the raise hand function. And if you don't know how to use that yet, just physically, because we will teach you, just physically raise your hand and I'll call on you. Also, the session is being recorded so that those who can't be here today can view it afterwards. And in my email out to you on Wednesday, I let you know that it was being recorded. I just wanted to note that, making sure no one objects to that is always essential. Sorry about that. And that any confidentiality and privacy concerns are resolved, obviously, before the session is recorded. Finally, for those who have your cameras on, just to be aware of that and ensure that you turn it off if you have to leave the room or if there's something going on that's distracting in your room that might interfere with the presentation. So are there any questions about our norms or about the purpose of norms? Nope. Okay. I am going to hand it off to Kathy to, this is our agenda for today, as I discussed in the learning objectives. And I think Kathy's now going to start discussing some of the content with us, including scheduling a Zoom.
Great, thank you, Liz. Little shout out to Hillary. I think Hillary just joined us.
Oh, hi, Hillary.
So we're going to be talking about scheduling a Zoom, the functions of Zoom, making Zoom look good, and a wrap up at the end. And I'm going to take you to, let's see, Abigail. Oh, there it is. Scheduling a Zoom. So there are some different types of Zoom accounts and plans that are available. I'll go over some of those now, and then we'll talk about setting up the meeting. Raise your hand, and you can do it physically, or for some of you who are more advanced, if you want to raise your hand using the raise hand feature. We'll see who's ahead of the game here. If you have planned and hosted a Zoom meeting before. Okay. All right, that's great. So there are some different plans here. This you can find this information online. The free account is very useful, used by many people. It does have some limitations. It can host up to 100 people at a time. And there are unlimited one-on-one meetings. However, the trick is that there is a 40-minute meeting limit, but some folks have just done back-to-back meetings if they need more than 40 minutes. But this would be a good option for folks if they're just having some consulting meetings that are 30 minutes or so, or small team meetings. There is a Zoom for Education feature option that if you go to Zoom for Education online, there's a form that you can fill out through Zoom. And if you have an account set up with a school domain, I believe the 40-minute time limit is lifted. And I'm pretty sure that's widely used right now, especially in our situation, which is great. The next plan is the Pro plan, which is perfect for groups like us. This is great for a team that meets regularly, longer than 40 minutes, or gives trainings or presentations that are an hour plus. You can have up to 100 participants. You can have unlimited meetings. Sessions can also be recorded. Another feature of this plan is that there is the option for people to register, which can be really useful for attendance and for tracking participants. The business and enterprise plans are probably a bit more than most of us would need. They do have extra features, including transcripts, up to 300 or 500 participants, some branding options, and additional customer support from Zoom. So let's see. Signing on is simple. You can go to zoom.us, sign up. And if you don't have an account, there is a sign up for free option right there. You just have to put in your email address. You'll receive an email. And once you click on the link in there, you can activate your account and you're ready to go. Setting up a meeting. Once you have your account, and this is for free or paid plans, set up your profile that just puts in your general information. And then you can start and set up your first meeting. So you'll select meeting on the left-hand column. You'll have a lot of different options to fill in, starting with the date, the time, the length of the meeting, the topic, which is also the title of the meeting. Your meeting ID will also appear here. You'll have an option for security using a passcode to have folks enter the meeting, or a waiting room. As you saw today, we had a waiting room. That just ensures we know who's coming in before they actually come in, because security is important. You'll also have the option to set participants' video and audio to on or off as they arrive. As Liz mentioned earlier, in a larger group format, this is kind of medium large, I guess. Having folks come in muted is helpful because it kind of reduces that background noise, but you can still have some greetings and folks can unmute themselves. For so small meetings and small trainings, and make sure you have the telephone and computer audio option noted on, so that participants can join either through a phone or computer and basically come in and be able to speak and use their video on any device that they sign on with. Other options that you might see would be registration setup or recording the session if you're in a paid plan. Another option would be the chat setting. You can decide whether or not you want something, you want people to be able to chat to each other and to the whole group. This is really useful in a setting like this because you can have questions on the side, and you can share information, you can share links and documents as well. It's appropriate for most meetings and trainings to have the chat feature on. A larger webinar format might be a situation where the chat feature is not on. Okay, now I'm curious, are there any very curious people in this group? If so, show me your hands. Okay, for those that want to dive deeper into some of the options, on the left-hand side, you'll see account management. And under account management, there's a drop down to account settings. If you go into that, you will see many, many, many options of features that Zoom has, and that's for the free and paid versions. Some of them won't be available to all the free accounts, but there are lots of features in there. So if you have some time to kind of dig, even when we were planning this training, we were finding many more options, and we're thinking about part 2 for our next training. So, but we will jump into some of those in this training and the next. And let's see, let's go on to inviting folks. Okay, so you have a couple of options to invite people. You can simply, once you've set up a meeting and you've clicked save at the bottom, you can click on Outlook and you can set up a meeting as you would in Outlook, and then you can forward that invitation, and that way folks can accept it and it goes right into their Outlook calendar. You can also use Google. Another option we use at Across is copying and pasting the invitation, because not everybody might have not be able to use Outlook from whatever device they're using. So sending a link in an email is another really great option. So those are the 2 options for invitations. Let's see. And now we're just going to do a quick little review of what I just went over. And this is courtesy of Zoom. And if you are very new to Zoom, if you go onto zoom.us support, they have videos and documents that go over many of the features and questions that folks have about Zoom. Got it, Abigail? No. Abigail, you're on mute. What is it?
Thank you. Yeah, I have to do I have to change a setting on the computer before you press play.
Okay.
And I'm going to go back on mute on this device.
Okay. Thank you. Are
And
you
if you
ready?
don't mind turning on the closed caption button, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me see, did I get that on?
Today we'll be going over how quick and easy it is to schedule a Zoom meeting on the web portal. After you log into your Zoom account, select the Meetings tab and schedule a new meeting. Here you can decide on the topic, date and time, and if the meeting needs to be reoccurring. Meeting passwords are enabled by default. You can also customize the password itself. You may disable this option as needed. You can also customize the audio and video and have additional meeting options like join before host, waiting room is automatically enabled, and use features like authenticating.
And that's it. Okay, so I'm going to pass this on to Abigail. Thank you, Abigail, for your video assistance.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. So I think you can hear me okay, Kathy, and everything's put back to normal?
Yeah, we're all
Okay.
back to normal.
Oh, good. Although I think you still have, we should be back to normal now. This is my role, everyone. I'm going to go over the functions of Zoom with you. I'm really excited. This is, to me, this is the fun part where you get to press all of the buttons. Throughout learning about the functions of Zoom, we're going to also hopefully absorb some terminology about what we're referring to as we go. And I'm going to let you know what's going on my end of the screen because I'm about to move my video here. I've had to have two computers set up just so folks know that when I'm moving back and forth with what I'm looking at, I'm still looking at you all, it's just between two screens. But what I wanted to show first, I know Kathy touched on inviting and admitting participants. So we're just gonna start right at this participants button that you see on the bottom of your screen. You all can click on that and see what happens when you press the button. And on the side of your screen, over where your chat might have been, if you had that open, or if you didn't, a list of everyone in this meeting should show up for you. When you press this little up arrow, you have an option to invite people to your meeting internally from the Zoom meeting. I'm not going to get into that very deeply, but know that there's that option there. So if you're exploring in Zoom and you're using Zoom for meetings consistently with the same group of people, it can be a nice feature to check out. It's a place where you can find your invitation link, where you can invite people via email. So that option is there. But our primary knowledge for what goes on when we press the participants button for the purpose of our meeting today and for most meetings is to be able to see who's here and access some of those functions like raise your hand or change your name. It's also a location, especially if you're hosting an event and you've enabled a waiting room feature so that when everyone comes into your event, they are put into a waiting room and you can see who's coming in first. That's one of the key locations where you're going to be able to admit people to your room, and they can't enter the room until you're ready to press that button. Here are some images of what it might look like if you press the invite tab and then you press some more buttons in the invite tab. Some some ideas of what you might see. For example, I am my own contact. This really helps me when I'm logging in from 2 devices to be able to add myself for multiple devices really quickly. Adjusting your views in Zoom as a participant and as a host is one of the features of Zoom that I have gotten a lot of questions from participants during meetings, and B, is very, very key for me as a presenter to success. So you can all take a moment now. You should see some options on your screen for gallery view or speaker view. And you can click back and forth and see what happens to your Zoom meeting when you do. You click speaker view, I'm probably pretty large and in charge in your screen because I'm the one talking right now. If you clicked gallery view, I'm probably somewhere near the top of your screen with a yellow box around my little Zoom window, and everyone else is probably distributed throughout. Something else is probably going on your screen right now is on one half of your screen, you're seeing the PowerPoint presentation, and on the other half of your screen, you are seeing the participants. You're seeing either me if you have speaker view, or you're seeing everyone if you have gallery view on one side of your screen. To change that, you would go up to your drop-down menu at the top of your screen right now. It says you're viewing presentation computer screen. And if you go to view options, you can see a couple of different ideas. And if you like things that you can do, Zoom ratio, please don't request remote control right now. That would scare me. Annotate, there's a number of different really neat things that you can play around with and feel safe trying those out before you get into a presentation. But if you clicked side-by-side mode, in my image, it's clicked check, yes, side-by-side, no. If you click it, you'll see what happens. And then you can get back to that same feature. If you want side-by-side mode to come back for you, you click view options again and click on side-by-side mode, and it should bring you back to the PowerPoint being on one side and our group today being on the other. Hopefully, as I was talking, you had a chance to try some of these features. Muting and turning your video on and off are 2 essential components to being in a Zoom meeting. It's so interesting to me to see how our social norms transfer into this platform and what's expected of us, but being able to mute your microphone and turn your video off and turn your video on and unmute yourself are 2 very basic but very key functions when you're participating or presenting in this platform. If you, we're not going to do it now. Everyone had a chance to, when they were introducing themselves in the beginning, to unmute themselves and then remute themselves. But if you wanted to take a moment to, if your video is on, to just press your video, that little button here, and turn it off. And then if your video is off and you feel comfortable, I know we're recording, so honoring that, if you feel comfortable, take a moment to turn your video on and then shut it back off after. And if that's not something you want to do, that's okay too. But you will know for the future how to do it. When you're looking and you're in a meeting and you're looking for, oh, maybe something's going wonky with my sound or my video, try clicking these up arrows and seeing what some of these options might help you get to. For example, when you saw me switch views, I had to click on the video arrow right here. And am I muted?
Sorry, Abigail, I was admitting someone from the room and it.
That's okay. I got worried for a second that I'd been muted all this time.
No,
you're good.
Okay.
Carry on.
Okay. I would hope somebody would have hollered before then, though. So I had to click on this up arrow for my video, and I had to make a selection for my webcam to pick me up instead of my computer cam. Recording a session. This one's provides a really great opportunity for us as presenters to save our content. Maybe you want to share it with someone who couldn't be there in the future, or maybe you want to watch yourself present, because we all want to watch ourselves present, right, later on. So that's one thing that's been really nice. I also work as a piano teacher, so my students sometimes ask to record their lessons so that they can look back at them later in the week. And what I do is I go to this little circle at the bottom of my screen, which I see when I'm a host or a co-host, and I press the record button. When I press the record button at the top of my screen, where it says Zoom meeting on everyone's window, it says whether I'm recording or not. And this little red dot is appearing in a cloud because I selected, when I took these pictures, I selected record to the cloud, which is where my video would save when I'm done. If I want to pause the recording, I press the pause button. And if I have pressed the pause button, then a play button can appear for me to select to start recording again, or a stop button will always be there. So if I wanted to completely stop recording, I could do that. If I press a stop button, I get a nice notification that checks in. Did you really want to do that? If I really wanted to do that and I press yes, stop, I'll receive a message that tells me how I can get my video later. Okay, so the chat feature is something that I've noticed a lot of people already know how to use. One thing that you can do is you can send a private chat to anyone in the meeting. So I think what we'll do right now is we'll have everybody open the chat, and you are going to send a private message to me. And I want you all to tell me one feeling word. So I'm going to look over at my other computer so I can see my private chats coming to me. Oh, tired. Friday. A feeling word, Friday. That's the best. So you're clicking that little drop-down menu and finding Abigail J. Blodgett. What have I got? Busy, well, upbeat, happy, all good. TGIF, I agree. You are a rock star. Oh, thanks, Liz. Doing a great job. Sandy Hogan. Well, wonderful. Sleepy. I'm with you, Mary. I woke up early this morning. Okay, so it looks like most folks were able to try that feature. I intentionally did that because what can happen is you can forget that you have selected one individual. And then you go to message the group later, and golly Wally, you are still messaging only that individual. So now your task is to go back into your drop-down menu and find everyone. You're going to click everyone, and to know that you've been successful, you're going to write your favorite color. Just one word, just your favorite color, and hit send. And if anyone sends it just to me, I'll know that you need extra support after. Okay, it looks like we all got it. Everyone looks like they're back to selecting everyone from the chat. And a really nice way to know is in bright blue is you're gonna see, you know, it's to everyone. Or if I wanted to private chat Nate, I would say it's from me to Nate. There's other things you can do in the chat, like send a file. There's a number of different file types you can send in the chat so everyone in your meeting can get a document while you're having your meeting. It's a fun feature. When you're looking to raise your hand, you're going to find that in your participants drop-down menu. And your hand will stay up. So if you went into your participants drop-down menu and you selected raise hand, oh, I see hands being raised. Lots of them. Hands are appearing by your names, but in your windows, like your little Zoomy windows, and also in the participants list that I'm looking at. Now, here's the deal. Your hand won't go down on its own. So you have to lower your hand. So if you press the lower your hand button, your hand should go down. If you've been in a Zoom meeting and your hand magically went away, it's probably because a host or co-host was helping you out. And you as the host or co-host, when you're presenting, have the power to go, oh, whoops, this person might not know how to do that, and put their hand back down. When you are a presenter, you might want to use this wonderful feature called Breakout Rooms. I use it in every single presentation, sometimes 4 or 5 times. I've probably nodded your head yes if you've used Breakout Rooms before, or you've been sent to a breakout room. And some of you may have never been thrust into a breakout room or needed to use them yet. When you are setting up your Zoom account, there are an infinite number of settings that you can paw through to find what you want to appear when you open a meeting. You have to log in a web browser on the internet to your account and select for breakout rooms to be a feature in your app. I learned this the hard way. So thinking about, okay, so once it's there, this is what the button looks like. It has these 4 little squares that make up one large square. And when you click on it, that's where you're going to find the options for creating your breakout rooms. What that means is I can take everyone who's in this meeting right now, if I wanted to, and I could say Kathy and Sandy and Hillary are going to go out into their own video chat together, and Liz and Howard and Jennifer are going to go to their own chat, and then it sends them to their own rooms, and I can have them come all back together again. Renaming yourself. I've had to walk a number of folks through this during presentations. So knowing how to come into a meeting and the presenter says, please put what you like to be called in your name. You will go to the participants menu. There's a couple of ways of doing this. This is the way I'm going to talk about today. You go to the participants menu and you go to this little more button. And then you select rename. This fine little box pops up and you type in what you like to be called and press OK. And that's how you change your name. Nothing scary about that. Ending or exiting a Zoom meeting. There's a couple of options as the host. If you're not a host, there's one option, and that's I'm leaving, leave meeting. If you are a host, you have this other option of ending your meeting for everybody. So no matter who is in there, if you press end meeting for all, your meeting is done. And if it's done. So that's how that button works. So you can, but even as a host, I could select leave meeting. And there might have been a co-host or someone else there who the meeting would stay open with. But if I click end meeting for all as the host, I know no more meeting. I think that it's Nate's turn to talk. And I'm passing it. Nate, you're all set.
Okay, great. And I was typing, but I will stop typing so I can talk to you guys. But Howard, you have to first turn on breakout rooms in the web browser. This is one of these things that's weird about Zoom is a lot of things you have to like activate, and then you have control within the meeting window. I mean, to activate them, they don't even appear in the meeting window. So like when I started, I didn't think my account even had breakout room access. Turns out it did. I just had to find the feature in the web browser, activate it, and then now it's easy. So that was sort of the tricky pieces. The first time is it's hidden, then after that, it's right there. So, but that all being said, so this part is about how to, you know, not just functionally make it work, but when you're actually speaking to your participants, you know, you want to be visible so they can hear you, have all these things having it set up so that people, I think, feel connected and able to really, you know, all the stuff that could get in the way of your presentation get taken care of. So there's a bunch of different pieces of this, and I'm going to blast through all of them. If folks have questions, we can go back to it as well. And also, we're going to definitely readdress this again in session 2, because some of this does get kind of deep and thorny. But the basics are the screen sharing part, which we talked about some already. The idea that Zoom can look different on different devices. How to make sure your presentations are accessible to everybody, taking care of just different populations, making sure things are going to be accessible, your sound quality, your lighting quality, and your background. So in terms of just some terminology, I just outlined a bunch of stuff here that is good for people to know about. And when we think about screen sharing, one really important difference is, so screen sharing is what we're doing now, right? Where you're seeing a screen share from Abigail's second computer. And in particular, you're seeing an application. So you're not seeing her entire desktop on the computer, you're seeing just the PowerPoint application. And that is really important, because when you screen share, you almost always want to just share one application, share the one window, not the entire desktop. And because when you share the desktop is when things pop around, I'm going to check this real quick, and everybody sees everything that you're doing. Whereas if you're sharing just the one window, you actually can have it in the background and have other things in front of it, and your participants won't see the things in front of it. So, for example, when I'm doing my presentations and I'm doing the sharing, and so I have PowerPoint open and I have more than one monitor, I actually have the slides up on my second monitor, but then in front of the slide is the chat feature, the participants window, maybe a notes page, other things that you guys don't see, but I see. So I'm just sharing the application. So that's a really important distinction between desktop and an application. And then again, in the window, sometimes you have more than one window open, like Word documents, you'll have a bunch of windows open. PowerPoint, you have a bunch of different PowerPoints. So making sure you pick the correct window of the application. One thing we haven't talked about much is basically everything we've said so far has applied to meetings. And Zoom also has an entire separate functionality called webinars, which you might have logged into in some big paid thing you went to, where the speakers really couldn't see you. You only could see the speakers. You couldn't see all the sort of heads. You just saw the people talking. There was more moderated chat features. So there's this whole extra kind of meeting you can do. So if you ever coming up with a presentation where you say you're going to talk to 200 people, say we're going to train everybody in Nashua, kind of thing, right? In that instance, we might make it a webinar and not a meeting, because we get more control over things. But for me, up to 50, 75, maybe even 100 people, a meeting is fine. Over 50 to 100, you might want to think about it, in which case call one of us so you can talk it through. But under 50, a meeting is totally fine. So, and most of the trains you do are small like that. So that's kind of an important piece. Another part I don't want to forget before we go along is, so all of this stuff relates to Zoom, right? But all of you SRS consultants, I think most of you have access also to Teams, which does almost all the same stuff too. So almost everything we're talking about today, except where certain features are, is also in Teams. So anyway, so there's a lot of this will generalize over to Teams as well. So make sure we put that out there. So devices and accessibility means people's ability to access the presentation and get through it with whatever barriers they might have for that. Okay. Different devices. I always say it can look different in different devices. So here's, okay, sorry, I have my slides are in the wrong order in my head. Anyway, and I think when you're presenting, you want to just keep this in mind to a degree, because sometimes if someone is on a phone or on a tablet and you're sort of trying to help them with it, things will be in different places. So you can say, well, on your computer, and they're like, well, I'm on a phone. And it's like, oh my goodness. And that's, I think, a piece where you really want to just be aware of the differences, so that when they come up, you can help folks with them. And that should have been higher. But anyway, so in terms of the screens, when you're looking at things, at these images here, the first thing on your left, hope you can see the mouse. This is, actually probably can't, because that's my mouse. So the one on the left is my setup. So that's my laptop, and the slides that are on the right. And then the first one is what you've probably seen on a computer. When again, you maybe will be on the side. That's basically the computer setup. Then an iPad, and then our phone. And so the appearance and some of the really apparent functionality does decrease as you move to the smaller and smaller devices. The phones and iPad add different things, like you can move the little presenter window around and things, so folks can fiddle with some stuff. The functionality is all there, but like the bar that Abigail was talking about that pops up. Well, it pops up somewhere else now. And I don't have an Android, so I imagine it looks slightly different on Android as well. So just at this point, just being aware that if you're trying to help folks through some things, or you're trying to reference part of your screen beyond the Zoom window, it might not be where you think it is on somebody else's device. You know, it isn't necessarily universal in its appearance. The functionality is there, but the universal might not be, or the appearance or the placement might not be. That's a small font size. I'll let it fix that. All right, accessibility. Don't make your fonts this small. It's not accessible. That's a bad choice of font size. So these are just some ideas. Zoom offers a bunch of tips on it. The bottom link there is actually from Cornell, and it's got a bunch of great tips too. But we've also modeled some of this stuff for you, like at the beginning, telling people how to ask questions, how to use the chat feature, but also recognize not everybody's going to use the chat feature. So especially if you have big groups, we don't know all your participants. Some people might not be able to use chat for all sorts of reasons. So don't rely on it. Don't say, well, it's in chat, you should have seen it. Well, no. If you're going to post a document in chat, a link in chat, also always email it after, which we're going to do as well today. We're going to post a link to the feedback form. We're also going to email it to you because we try to live what we say. Not everybody can always see the screens, especially if people are driving, then hopefully they've got the screen turned off. If they have vision impairments, etc., the screens might not be able to see the screens. So describe what's on the screen. Don't just say, look on the upper left corner, see that picture, and not talk about it. Make sure you describe what's there. Sending out slides in advance, sending out handouts in advance. These things are important because at the end of the day, you can't use a screen reader program. Like my little tiny font size here, you couldn't use a screen reader because it's just an image. So you have to just be aware of these pieces. And there are a ton of resources about it out there, but it's definitely keep it in mind that especially when you don't know who's in your meeting, to really work hard to make it accessible and have it there for everybody. There's my font size back to what it should be. Closed captioning. This actually places Teams is ahead of Zoom. Zoom is working on this fairly feverishly because Teams has it. In Teams, you can turn on closed captioning. We just did this in a meeting yesterday. And everything everybody says is transcribed at the bottom of the screen as we talk along, which can be really helpful for some people. Zoom does have some third-party apps that can do this, that can get added. And I know they're working to have it themselves. Hopefully before too long they will. But it is there in Teams. So just being aware when closed captioning comes up that it can be important. So sound quality. Hopefully I sound pretty good right now. That little picture is actually a headset that I have. And test these things out. Make sure that you know how you sound. You also want to have a really good Wi-Fi connection. If you're not confident Wi-Fi connection, maybe plug your computer in to get really stable internet. Because when your internet is laggy, your sound gets laggy. So being confident in your setup, if your computer doesn't have a good microphone, get an external microphone. These kinds of things. Know what the background noise is behind you. I'm sure yeah, we have more than one kid in their backgrounds right now. We saw one very cute one, mine over there. Kids are around, people are around, knowing what the background noise is. Knowing if as a presenter you should mute. I of course have the family printer right behind me. Every now and then it kicks on in the middle of a presentation. That's always fun. So background noises. Speech styles, you maybe have noticed I'm someone who tends to talk fairly quickly. I always have to be mindful of that myself, trying to talk more slowly as I can. It's hard for me. But being mindful of your speech style. And then in those considerations, one really important one people don't often think of, especially if you happen to be in a room with multiple people watching the same laptop, is that laptop mics, what are called usually directional. So they really only pick up noise that is right in front of them. And if you're off to the side over here, it might not hear you. You hear me because I have the headset on. And so if you ever, I've had these meetings and, well, let's all use the same machine, or they plug a machine in a projector, but the microphone's in the machine. And the only people you can hear are directly the ones you can see. That's because that's how the microphone is made. That's a function, not a bug, right? So be really mindful of these sorts of things. Again, be near your Wi-Fi access point, all that good stuff. But the directional microphone is probably the one most people don't realize. Lighting. Again, this is the light that I own right there in that picture, and I'm going to turn it off for you. So lighting is really important. If you turn it off, you don't look as good. Especially when you're presenting. I mean, if you're just listening, it doesn't matter. But if you're the presenter, light is important. Foreground lighting is really important. Don't have only background lighting, only lighting above. You know, I have my cute lamp back there for a reason, right? You want to have multi-point lighting in your room, and you want to have soft foreground lighting if you can. Like I also have a ceiling light. If I just have it on, I look all shadowy. It's dangerous. Be really careful with how you light. And also, I mean, this light that I have is $30 on Amazon. You know, then there's a ton of them if you look it up. So yeah, yeah. Be a little careful in the dark. We like to see people. You know, again, you ever think about a movie set, right? You know, movie sets are incredibly bright, but when you actually see it on TV, it looks normal, even though the set had all these bazillion lights everywhere. So you want to make sure you're well lit. Even Howard, be sure you're well lit, man. We'd love to see your face. Yeah, no, I have to look up too because I get a little shiny these days. Years are going by. This is just some pictures. So the picture on the left, the one where I'm a little further down, is when I only have on my rear light. It's not terribly lit, but I'm kind of shiny. Don't look fantastic. Like it's weird glare. The other one, the light's a lot more balanced because I have a lot more lights on. I also have a giant window in front of me, looks out into my street, which offers a lot of natural light at certain times of the day. So just different lights make you more visible, also make you look, you know, better or worse, different, shiny or less shiny, less glinty off the top of the head, less glare off your glasses. When I have multi lights on, there's less glare on the glasses. So you want to think these things through in terms of how you lit yourself. Again, so backgrounds. I really wish I had taken a picture of what this office looked like when we started remote learning. Didn't look like it looks now. Zoom backgrounds it is important to have a nice background. I've really appreciated Liz's background these days with a nice bookshelf and the cool glass door she has. I think she's got a great background right now. You want to be interesting in your background. Blank walls. I mean, when I started doing this, I'd have these blank walls that were kind of close to me. I was in my basement because of sound stuff. And it just, it looks weird, right? You also don't want to have too much space. You want to have some decorations, not too much. You want to be mindful of your decorations, what's behind you. Obviously, we've heard stories of kids getting in trouble for things they've had behind them on Zooms in schools. The same thing for you. Don't have something behind you that might be potentially triggering for somebody in your presentation. But also try to have a little fun. Mine's still a little static. I'm thinking of something else to get back there. That's why like Liz's books are interesting, these things. You know, it doesn't have to be super professional, you know. You can try to have a little fun with it too. This is a great example that came out of, it was from a TV program that I'm gonna leave alone for now. But this very professional looking woman on the left from me was invited to speak on a TV program kind of last minute. She's Gretchen Goldman, Dr. Gretchen Goldman. She's the research director for Center for Science and Democracy. And then her husband snapped the picture on the right of her, what it actually looked like in the room she was presenting in. And it just makes me laugh. But also shows that, yeah, the cameras only see what they see. So you can get things out of the way and hide them, and it's just fine, right? And the other piece that's in here as well for her is her camera angle, which is actually the next slide. But look how high she has her laptop up in that chair there. So you're looking at the camera is basically level with her eyeballs, slightly below. So that's another really important thing, right? And we look, I think, at, yeah, the camera, where the camera is in relation to your background. And it's really hard, and I've not been doing a good job with it, is looking at the camera, not at yourself. I always try to get myself as close as I can to the camera. If I have an image of myself, I try to get it right up under the camera if I can. Having the camera at a little bit below your face, not way above you, and not also so you're looking down, way down at it. That stuff does really matter, making you look more just like a regular person. If you're having the presentation on the screen, You know, I don't want to put my presentation over here and I'm looking over here the whole time, right? That would be pretty terrible. I've seen people do that. It's sort of something you don't necessarily think of because you're not looking at yourself in the same way. So be mindful of where the thing you're going to look at the most is in relation to your camera, and get it as close as you can as your camera so that you're making as much contact with the camera as you're going to. And if you know, I definitely encourage folks to have multiple screens, but if you do, be mindful of what's on what screen and how often you have to look away. Time. All right, so here's Prince Charles showing us the importance of camera angles. I love that picture. Cracks me up. Being stacked up on a cooler and some books, and he also sneakily, that's actually a book he recently published. So he's got a little ad for himself in there as well, I believe. Anyway, again, camera angles, where you look. The difference between looking at yourself, looking at the camera, and looking off to the side, it matters. Test your setup. Have a friend, have your kid help you test your setup. You know, do a call, see if they can hear you. You know, do it with your spouse so they can, or feel free to criticize you. You know, someone you trust to say, no, that looks stupid, try again. Don't do it with someone who's going to be like, oh no, you look great, man. No, don't pick that friend. Pick the friend who's going to tell you don't look good so that you can fix it, or you don't sound good so you can fix it. This is my setup, and I believe this is it for me. Again, this is just to actually have a third monitor as well. It's not in the picture, but two is plenty for presentations. You'll see the light there turned on above me over the front. And that's the cable for my headset. I am plugged into the headset. I like plugged in sound. Personally, I don't like Bluetooth sound, but if you move around a lot, maybe Bluetooth. And you'll see on the screen there is, so my presentation is on the big screen, the slides. The presenter view is on my laptop and the half the laptop screen. And then the other half of the screen is the people. And if in a big presentation, that would be full of faces. I would drag it out so all the faces appeared. So I could see everybody, see my presenter view, and have my slides on the right. And again, I might put the participants or the chat or whatever over the slides, so I can see them, but you guys would just be seeing the slides. So that's how I usually balance all my stuff when I'm doing presentations. I get my presenter view, I get the people so I can see your faces, and I put the slides off to the side. And I have my light up in the air. There is an extra camera there I don't usually use. It's there for various reasons, but I usually use the laptop camera in case anybody wonders about the other camera. So some key factors that I said, and it's 59, so I'm done. So I'm going to kick to Liz for the end of this. So hopefully that all was helpful.
Great. That was great. So we have finished our content. I'm just trying to, here we go, move to the next screen. And we're at the end of the hour. So now one of the most important aspects of the presentation is for you to help us learn by filling out the electronic evaluation that Nate's going to drop into the chat box. And as he said, I will also email it to all of you after we get off Zoom. And this will help inform our next presentation because, as you know, this is going to be a series. And in part 2, we will be, we'll assume you have the Zoom proficiency that we share with you today, and we'll be helping you to use Zoom to offer an effective professional development event and design that event. So please do fill out the evaluation. That would really mean a lot to us. And please be honest. We can handle it. We'd really like to know your honest opinion and suggestions to make it better. And that's it. That's all we have today. It's 2 o'clock. We want it to be timely. And we'd like to thank you for your participation, your active engagement in this session. And most of all, right now, I'd like to thank our presenters, Nate, Abigail, and Kathy. You are wonderful to support us all and sharing your time and expertise. And I know everyone on the meeting really thanks you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you all for being here.
Have a great end of the day.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
We appreciate it. Bye-bye. And I forgot who's ending the meeting.
I can do that.
And you're still
Okay,
recording too.
Kathy.